Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty huge, something fans have been talking about, well, endlessly.
Yeah, we've got this mountain of notes, articles, blog posts, interviews, all trying to make sense of arguably the most anticipated and maybe most elusive book in modern fantasy.
We are talking about The Winds of Winter, of course, the sixth book in George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire.
And look, our goal here isn't just to rehash the memes or the frustration, though we'll definitely touch on that. It's more of an archaeological dig, you know.
Right. We want to synthesize everything we could find, the timeline, the promises, the contradictory updates, all those other projects.
And really get to the heart of this conflict between the author, his empire, and this incredibly dedicated fan base.
Exactly. And just to set the stage, because the scale here is frankly staggering. We need to start with the last book, A Dance with Dragons, came out July 12th, 2011. As of today, pulling from all our sources, it has been 5,213 days.
5,213 days.
Yeah. Over 5,000 days, that number. It kind of frames everything we're about to discuss, doesn't it? The sheer length of this wait.
It really does. I mean, 5,213 days. It almost sounds like a joke when you're talking about one book.
Yeah.
But when you actually look at what's happened outside of Westeros in that time.
Oh, yeah. The perspective shift is huge. It helps you understand maybe why some fans get so intense about it.
Totally. Our notes pulled together this list of real-world events, and it just puts the delay into such sharp focus. Like, think about this.
Okay.
Since A Dance with Dragons was published, the world has hosted 4 Summer Olympics.
4.
3 Winter Olympics.
Right.
We've had 4 U.S. presidential elections.
Yeah.
5 different prime ministers in the U.K.
Wow.
A new pope was elected. And, Queen Elizabeth II passed away, and now there's a new King of England.
That's entire eras of history unfolding.
Oh,
while
yeah.
Characters in the book are literally stuck mid-battle or mid-sentence.
Exactly. And it's not just politics or sports. Think about the audience itself, the global population. It's grown by about 1 billion people.
1 billion potential new readers. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
A whole generation has basically grown up waiting for this book.
A generation that could have read the first 5 books, gotten hooked, graduated college maybe, and still nothing.
And the world of media, the very platform that made the series a global phenomenon, even that's changed drastically.
Oh, yeah. HBO itself, right?
Yeah.
It went from being just HBO, then it became Max for a bit. Now it's HBO Max.
The streaming service had an identity crisis faster than the book could get written.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it? And then you compare Martin's output to, say, other fantasy giants.
Right. This comparison is pretty stark.
J.R.R. Tolkien obviously passed away decades ago, right? Since 2011, when Dance came out, his estate has released 5 posthumous books.
5 books from an author who's been gone for over years.
Yeah. So, I mean, the sources aren't subtle here. A deceased author is currently outpacing George R. R. Martin on main series-related out.
That's a tough one to swallow for fans. But wait, there was another comparison in the notes that was even more existentially weird.
Oh, the Gilgamesh one. Yeah. It sounds like a joke, but it's apparently true.
Get this. Since 2011, we've actually seen more new material surface or be translated from the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Which is like, what, 4,000 years old?
Exactly. Then we have new material from the A Song of Ice and Fire series. Ancient Sumerian fragments are being published faster than wind.
It tells you something about maybe focus, priorities, and then there's the direwolf story. That one is perfect.
Yeah, right. The actual real-life direwolf project.
Well, technically not the direwolf, but a close relative, yeah. But Martin actually helped fund a scientific project.
To bring back or sort of de-extinct a species that's been gone for 10,000.
Before he finished the book featuring the fictional direwolves that basically launched his modern fame.
He helped resurrect an ancient predator before he finished a novel.
If that doesn't encapsulate the whole situation, I don't know what does. The real world, science, history, it's all moving on while Westeros waits.
Okay, so it's been a long time, but it's not like it's been radio silence, right?
Yeah.
There have been updates, promised deadlines.
Oh, absolutely. And that's part of the frustration, the cycle of hope and disappointment. It starts pretty early on.
So back in October 2012, just over a year after Dance came out,
he claimed he already had 400 pages written, which sounds pretty good, and he was hoping, optimistically, for a 2014 release.
Okay, so initial hopes were high. 3 years seemed plausible then.
Yeah, but even then, he threw in that little warning, didn't he? He admitted right from the start that he was really bad at predictions.
Huh. Yeah, maybe the most accurate thing said in this whole saga. Okay, so 2014 comes and goes.
Right. Fast forward to April 2015. The HBO show is now a massive global hit. Pressure's mounting.
Time. And
the update is less encouraging. He says he's maybe only a quarter of the way done now.
A quarter after nearly 4 years. That's slow.
Yeah. And he pushes the hopeful release to 2016. The big push was really to try and get it out before season 6 of the show started airing.
Ah, the race against the show. Because season 6 was going to start spoiling book plot lines, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was a crucial deadline.
Yeah.
And he missed it.
Spectacular, whatever.
Yeah, January 2016, he puts out this very frank blog post, admits he missed multiple deadlines. 2015, there was apparently a Halloween one, then an end-of-year one.
Right.
And the quote was pretty direct. I tried, I promised you, I failed. I blew the Halloween deadline, and now I've blown the end-of-the-year deadline.
Wow, that's quite an admission.
And that's when he said he wouldn't set another deadline, which, you know, maybe was wise, but it also sort of opened the door to this indefinite waiting.
So no more date. But did he promise anything else, like focus?
He did. That led to this phase we call the vow on the break. In February 2016, right after missing the season 6 deadline, he made this big promise.
Okay, what was it?
He said he was stopping everything else. No more writing teleplays for the show, no screenplays for other things, no short stories, no introductions, no forwards for other books.
Seriously, that's huge.
Yeah. He even said he was dropping all his editing projects except for his long-running Wildcard series. The message was, Wins is now priority number 1. Everything else gets shelved.
That must have reassured people, at least for a while.
It probably did.
Yeah.
But the cycle continued. Just 1 year later, January 27. Already the optimism is fading. He's quoted saying something like, I think it'll be out this year, but hey, I thought the same thing last year.
Oh, boy. Back to square one, kinda.
Pretty much. And then comes the real kicker. Despite that 2016 vow to stop all other Westeros stuff, by July 2017, he confirms he is releasing a Westeros book in 2018.
But not Winds of Winter.
Nope. It was Fire and Blood Part 1, the big Targaryen history book.
Ah, so the vow didn't quite stick. Other Westeros projects were already creeping back in.
Exactly. The lure of the expanding universe was already proving stronger than the focus on the main.
Okay, this is getting complicated. Then there was that really dramatic challenge he set himself, right? The New Zealand.
Oh, yeah. May 2019. This is peak drama. He publicly announced that if he didn't physically have the finished manuscript for Winds of Winter in his hand when he arrived in New Zealand for the World Science Fiction Convention in July 2020.
What then?
Then fans had his formal written permission to imprison me in a small cabin on White Island overlooking the lake of sulfuric acid until I'm done.
Sulfuric acid, wow. That's quite the visual, setting the stakes high.
Extremely high. And, well, July 2020 came and went. The convention itself was disrupted by the pandemic, but the book wasn't done. The vow was broken.
Did the pandemic lockdown help at all? I mean, you'd think that would be prime writing time.
That's the irony. In June 2020, right in the middle of it all, he blogged about writing, saying he had, quote, nothing else to do but write. Sounds promising, right?
Yeah.
But in the same breath, he said he still had a long way to go. So even enforced isolation wasn't the magic bullet.
Huh. So progress, but still no finish line in sight.
And then, February 2021, we get this slightly confusing update. He calls 2020 his best year of writing on Win. Says he wrote hundreds and hundreds of pages.
Okay, that sounds pause. Hundreds of pages.
Yeah, it does sound good, but he immediately follows it up by saying he still needs hundreds of more pages to finish it properly. And then he adds a line that really sums up the whole problem.
Which is?
I have a zillion other things to do as well.
There it is. The zillion other things. That leads us right into the next big piece of this puzzle, doesn't it?
Precisely. That comment wasn't just a throwaway line. It points to the core issue. Westeros, the fictional world, has grown so huge, so successful, that it's actually overshadowing the book series that started it all. There's a quote we found that nails it. Westeros has become bigger than the Winds of Winter.
And you can see that tangibly, right, in the actual output. Since 2011, while waiting for Winds, he's been involved in writing, 4 other major books set in that world.
That's right. Not counting Winds or the eventual Dream of Spring. We're talking The World of Ice and Fire, that huge concordance. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms collecting the Dunk and Egg novellas. Fire and Blood Part 1, that massive Targaryen history. And The Rise of the Dragon, which is basically an illustrated companion to Fire and Blood.
These aren't exactly pamphlets either. These are substantial, detailed books that require a lot of time and creative energy.
Immense amount. World building, historical timelines, character details. It's intensive work. And that's just the Westeros.
Right, because he didn't really stop everything else, did he? There was the wildcards exception.
Exactly. He kept editing and contributing to the wildcard series. Our notes list something like 15 wildcard books he's been involved with editorially since 2011. Plus, he edited that big cross-genre anthology, Rogue.
So the 2016 vow to focus solely on Winds, it had some significant asterisks attached from the start.
It definitely did. It shows that finishing Winds wasn't ever truly the only thing on his plate, even when he said it was the priority.
And then you layer on the multimedia empire, the TV shows, the game. That's got to be a massive time.
Huge. Think about Elden Ring.
Yeah.
He didn't just lend his name. He helped write the foundational lore and world building for one of the biggest video games in recent memory.
And now there's news he's producing a live-action Elden Ring adaptation due out in, what, July 2025?
That's the report. So he's actively involved in launching another massive fantasy franchise across different media, while his original one remains unfinished.
Okay, and back in Westeros on TV land.
The demands there are constant. He's an executive producer on Dark Winds, that AMC show. And then there's the whole HBO machine.
House of the Dragon.
Right. He co-created it based on Fire and Blood. And apparently there was some friction with the showrunner later on, but he was deeply involved initially.
And he's also involved in the Night of the Seven Kingdoms show, the Dunk and Egg adaptation.
Creatively involved, yes.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating because, again, that's based on an unfinished series of novellas.
So HBO is now building shows on top of multiple unfinished literary foundations from.
It seems that way. And that's not even counting all the other potential Game of Thrones spin-offs reportedly in development. The number we found was at least 7.
7. How can anyone possibly oversee 7 spin-offs and write a monstrously complex novel like Wind?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? He's essentially the Kevin Feige of Westeros now. It's a full-time job managing the IP, which seems fundamentally incompatible with the solitary, focused work needed to finish the book.
And we have confirmation that these other projects directly pulled him away from.
They do. In October 2022, he was quite open about it. He admitted he literally stopped writing The Winds of Winter, specifically to finish Fire and Blood Part 1.
And the reason?
Purely practical. House of the Dragon was moving forward. The show was coming down the pike, as he put it, and he felt he needed to get the history book finished first to support the show.
Wow. So the TV show's schedule explicitly dictated that he pause work on the main novel.
That's what he said. The needs of the adaptation took precedence over completing the source material.
And around that same time, October 2022, that big gloss coffee table book, The Rise of the Dragon, also came out.
Yep. More ancillary material, beautifully produced, requiring author input and approval, all while winds wait.
It really does feel like a pattern. Momentum builds on wins, then another part of the empire needs feeding and attention.
And the latest update we have from September 2024 confirms this ongoing tension. He mentioned writing a few pages for Winds of Winter.
A few.
But in the same update, he also mentioned writing a few pages for Blood and Fire, the sequel to Fire and Blood.
So he's already working on the next book.
Apparently. And he explicitly stated that the various television projects ate up most of his time during that period.
So TV isn't just a background distraction anymore. It's openly acknowledged as the primary consumer of his writing time.
It seems to be the structural reality now.
Okay, this next part. This is where things get really frustrating, I think, for people trying to track the actual progress. The numbers, the percentages, they don't seem to add up over time.
No, they really don't. It's like trying to map a coastline during an earthquake. The landscape keeps shifting. Let's try and walk through the key data points we found.
All right. So October 2022, this seemed like a big one. He stated he was about 3/4 done, 75.
Right, 75%. That feels solid, manageable. He even elaborated a bit, saying he'd finished some character arcs, but the main challenge was weaving all the different storylines together at the end.
Okay, 75%. That gives people hope. And then just a couple of months later, December 2022, he put some page counts to it.
He did. He said he'd written roughly 1,100 to 1,200 pages.
Okay.
And he estimated he needed maybe another 400 to 500 pages to finish.
So do the math. 1,200 pages done, needing 400, 500 more. That puts the total estimated length somewhere around 1,600, 1,700 pages.
Exactly. And if 1,200 is about 75% of 1,600, yeah, the math checked out. It seemed consistent. People could sort of see the finish line, maybe 400 pages away.
Okay, that sounds reasonable, manageable. But what happened next?
Well, less than a year later, November 2023, another update surfaces, and the numbers change dramatically.
How so?
He reports now having written 1,800 pages.
Whoa. 1,800. That's a huge jump from 1,200. That's 600 new pages written in under a year. That sounds like amazing progress.
Right. You'd think, wow, he must close. If he only needed 400, 500 before and he wrote 600, he should be done or practically done.
Yeah. So what did he say? How many more pages needed?
He said he still needed 100 more pages.
Wait, hold on. How does that work? He writes 600 pages, but the amount needed only drops by maybe 300, 400 pages. He added 600 pages, but is still 100 pages away.
That's the confusion. Let's break it down. If 1,200 pages was 75% back in late 2022, the target was 1,600 pages total.
Okay, got it.
But if by late 2023 he's written 1,800 pages and still needs 100 more, that means the projected total length is now 19.
So the book itself grew by 300 pages in scope while he was writing those 600.
That's the only way the math works. He's not just writing forward. He's clearly adding significant material. rewriting, expanding. He mentioned rereading and rewriting brand chapters, adding new ones.
So the finish line keeps moving further away because the book itself is getting bigger and bigger. He used the phrase, it continues to get longer and longer, right?
He did. He called it a challenging book.
Okay.
It sounds like classic scope creep, but on an epic scale. The task isn't just finishing. It's wrestling this massive, evolving beast into shape.
Okay, but still 1,800 pages written, only 100 to go. That still sounds like maybe 95. Still sounds close, even if the book...
You would think so.
Yeah.
1,800 out of a projected 1,900 is indeed about 95%. But then we get the most recent and frankly most alarming piece of data from the sources.
Uh-oh. What now?
Summer 2025. A romance author, Jeffy Kennedy, reported that George R.R. Martin had recently told her personally that he was 70% done.
77, down from 75%, and down from what looked like 95% basically.
Exactly. If 1,800 pages written as of late 2023, possibly more by mid-2025, is only 70% of the total.
Let me try the math. 1,800 divided by 0.7. That means the projected total length is now over 2,507.
That's what the numbers imply. A book potentially nearing 2,600 pages, compared to the initial estimate of 1,600 pages back.
That's almost 1,000 pages longer. That's like adding another entire massive novel onto the end of it.
It explains the regression from 75% to 70%. He might be writing hundreds of pages, but if the total scope is ballooning even faster, his percentage complete actually goes down.
So over 3 years, despite writing possibly 600 plus pages, he's technically made negative progress towards completion, a 5% loss.
Numerically, based on those reported percentages, yes, it's baffling. It suggests the structure, the plot, the sheer scale is maybe out of control.
No wonder fans get whiplash from these up. The numbers are contradictory, the scope seems to be exploding. It's impossible to know where things act.
It really is. The goalposts aren't just shifting. It feels like the whole stadium is being rebuilt mid-game.
Okay, so given that timeline, those broken promises, those baffling, it becomes a bit clearer why this whole situation generates, right? Why fans aren't just mildly impatient.
Absolutely. You have to understand where the story left off in A Dance of Dragons.
Right.
It wasn't just a pause. It was, as our notes called it, a series of blue ball cliffhangers. Maximum narrative tension, zero resolution.
Right. It wasn't like, okay, a few loose ends. It was major characters in mortal peril, huge plot lines hanging fire for 14 years now.
Exactly. Let's tick off some of the big ones, just to remind ourselves why people are so invested. You've got Bran Stark, is the three-eyed raven feeding him his dead friend Jojen Reed in some kind of weirwood paste soup.
Yeah, the creepy cannibalism theory hanging over Winterfell's most mystical plot.
Grim. Super grim. Then down south, or up north, depending. Ramsay Bolton. Did he catch Mance Rayder and the Spearwives who were trying to rescue Arya?
We don't know. Theon escaped, but left them behind. Huge implications for the...
And across the narrow sea, in Meereen, Barristan Selmy, beloved honorable knight, is facing the Battle of Meereen. Will he even survive the first chart? The book ends right as it kicks off.
Brutal. Leaving a major viewpoint character potentially dead on page 1 of the next book.
And back in the north, there's the whole Grand Northern conspiracy. Are the Northern Lords plotting their own Red Wedding against the Boltons at Winterfell? Hints were dropped, but nothing confirmed.
So much potential payoff. Dang. And of course, the image everyone...
Jon, betrayed by his own men, stabbed repeatedly, bleeding out in the snow at Castle Black. It too, brute style. Is he dead? Is he wounded? Is he going to war again to go?
14 years. Jon Snow has been potentially dead or dying.
When you list it like that,
Yeah.
you get why people are desperate for answers. It's not just impatience. It's narrative agony held for over a decade.
And that intense pressure, that agony, it clearly seems to be affecting George R.R. Martin himself based on how he talks about the book now.
Oh, definitely. The language he uses has shifted. It's become much darker, much more burdened. The standout quote from April 2025, he called The Winds of Winter the curse of his life.
The curse of his life. Wow. The book series that made him a global icon, incredibly wealthy, is a curse.
That's what he said. It speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About the pressure, the expectation, maybe the loss of joy in the process.
And that feeling seems to spill over into how he talks about the fans sometimes. There's a defensiveness there.
There is. We found multiple instances. February 2024, he spoke out against toxic fans generally across all fandom. July 2024, he specifically scolded fans he deemed impatient about wins.
So he's feeling attacked, it sounds like, which, some online behavior is toxic, but it also suggests a growing distance or antagonism.
Yeah, and sometimes the reasons given for the writing difficulties become quite broad. Like in August 2024, when he mentioned the rise of fascism globally as something making it hard for him to write.
Okay. I mean, world events affect everyone's mood and focus, for sure. But citing that specifically for Winds delay, it feels like maybe grasping for external facts.
It could be interpreted that way. It suggests maybe an internal struggle that's hard to articulate, so broader anxieties get invoked.
And the most telling thing, maybe, is how his stated commitment level seems to have changed.
That's a key trajectory we tracked. Remember 2016? The vow to drop everything else? That was peak commitment, publicly stated.
Right. Then later it became more like a high priority among other.
Exactly. And then we get to August 2025, and the quote is simply, "I am still interested in."
Ooh, still did. That sounds lukewarm, doesn't it?
It sounds like something you'd say about a hobby you haven't picked up in a while, not your magnum opus. The source note compared it to telling your family, yeah, I'm still interested in you guys, but I've got other stuff I love too. Brutal.
It really signals a shift from this is my life's work to this is one of the many things I do.
Which might be the honest reality now, but it's tough for dedicated fans to hear.
And this whole situation, the delays, the speculation about the future, it's created this weird tension within the fandom itself, hasn't it? Like that incident at Seattle Comic-Con.
Ah, yeah, August 2025. Someone actually asked the taboo question. If Martin can't finish the series, would he allow someone else to do it? Based on his notes.
The succession question, it hangs over everything. How did that go down?
Apparently, the fan who asked got absolutely torn apart online after destroyed on the internet, as the notes put it.
Wow, so even asking about a potential plan B is off limits for a segment of the fandom. It's that sense.
It's the ultimate fear, isn't it? That the story just stops. And nobody wants to even contemplate it, let alone discuss contingency plan.
It really feels like we're reaching a point where the possibility of the series not being finished has considered, even by the author.
It seems so. There was a moment of stark honesty, recorded in December 2024. Martin acknowledged the long delay, saying, "Unfortunately, I am 13 years late on the Winds of Winter."
Okay.
And then he added, referring to people who say I'll never finish, maybe they're right.
Wow. He actually said that. Maybe they're right.
He did. It's a huge admission, a crack in the optimistic facade, maybe acknowledging the sheer difficulty of the task ahead.
It brings up that whole debate that's been around for years, the Neil Gaiman line.
Ah, yes. George R.R. Martin is not your bitch.
Yeah.
From way back in 2009, even before Dance was out, when people were already getting impatient.
And the argument is basically, authors are artists, not vending machines. They don't owe readers the next book on demand. Life happens, creativity ebbs and flows.
And on a fundamental level, that's true. He's not contractually obligated to his readers in that way. Art isn't made to order.
But there's a counter-argument, right?
Yeah.
Especially now, given the scale of success and the time elapsed.
There is. And it's less about obligation and more about perspective, gratitude. The fans who feel frustrated often frame it differently. They'd say, yes, he doesn't owe us the book, but maybe he owes it to himself and to the story.
How so?
Instead of seeing wins as the curse of his life, as he put it, maybe view it as the gift of. This is the work that brought unimaginable success, that touched millions, that built this empire.
So find joy in it again. Appreciate the massive, passionate audience that wants the story so badly.
Kind of. Frame it not as a burden imposed by demanding fans, but as this incredible, rare opportunity to complete a narrative that genuinely changed the fantasy landscape for the millions who adore it and made him wealthy in the process. Maybe that shift in perspective could help unlock.
It's an interesting thought. Turn the curse back into a gift.
It's easy to say from the outside, but the psychology matters.
And if he doesn't finish, what does that mean for his legacy? Besides just...
Well, there's a fascinating, almost subversive take. Martin famously set out to deconstruct Tolkien, to write a grittier, more morally complex, less neatly resolved fantasy.
Right, the anti-Tolkien in some way.
What if the ultimate subversion, the ultimate anti-Tolkien move, is simply not finishing the series, leaving it eternally unresolved, complex, messy, just like real history often is?
Huh. So the lack of an ending becomes the final brutal twist.
Possibly. The theory goes, if it remains unfinished, fans will endlessly theorize about the ending they will never see. That speculation, that ambiguity becomes part of the text, part of his legacy, a living, breathing, endlessly debated non-ending.
That's a darkly compelling idea. The author subverting narrative convention itself by just walking away intentionally.
It's a thought. But beneath all the theorizing about legacy, there's a simpler, more immediate point raised consistently in the fan feedback we reviewed.
Which is?
Honest transparency. After 14 years, after all the money fans have spent on book, merchandise, shows, making Martin an incredibly rich man.
They feel they deserve some straight answers.
Yeah, not necessarily a finished book tomorrow, but maybe just a more realistic assessment. Can he actually finish both remaining books? Does he still want to, given everything else he's doing? Is it even possible with the scope creep we discussed?
If the process is genuinely making him miserable, maybe admitting that would be freeing for everyone.
Perhaps. It's a terrifying process. Admitting defeat on something so monumental. But the current state of limbo, the conflicting segment, that's arguably worse for the loyal fans who just want to know what to expect.
So at this point, honesty might be the most valuable thing he could offer. #tag outro.
Right. At the end of the day, What this whole deep dive seems to show is this incredible paradox. You have this brilliant writer who builds this amazing world.
And it becomes so successful, spawns this giant media franchise.
That the franchise itself, the Empire, starts to consume the time and energy needed to actually finish the original story that started it all.
The creation overshadows the creator's ability to complete it. The tail is definitely wagging the direwolf here.
It really is.
Yeah.
Which leaves us, and you the listener, with a final thought to chew on, building on what we've uncovered.
Okay, what's that?
We've confirmed that HBO is heavily invested in shows based on Martin's unfinished work. House of the Dragon comes from Fire and Blood Part 1, with Part 2 still unwritten. Night of the Seven Kingdoms is based on novellas he hasn't completed.
Right. They're building billion-dollar franchises on incomplete foundation.
So the question is, what does this tell us about Hollywood now? Is adapting unfinished books becoming the new normal? Is the IP itself just too valuable to wait for authors to finish?
Our studio is basically saying, thanks for the world, we'll take it from here, even if the original story isn't done. Are we seeing a future where source material is just a suggestion, not a requirement?
It makes you wonder about the whole relationship between authors, adaptations, and creative control in the streaming era. Can massive franchises even afford to be dependent on a single human author's timeline?
That's a really big question about the future of storytelling itself. Definitely some. Well, thank you for joining us on this pretty extensive deep dive into the long, long wait for the Winds of Winter. It's been a journey.
It certainly has. We'll see you next time.